This is the new Crane Plus from ZHIYUN-TECH, and in today's video, we're going to talk about why it's my go-to gimbal for the Sony A6300. And by the way, you should totally balance your gimbal. Don't just let it like whip around. I did it for a dramatic effect for this intro, so let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel, filmmaking homies and homettes. It's your boy Cody Blue, and apologies that my face is a little bit red. I've really been working on my goggle tan these past couple days, been doing tons of snowboarding. Also, new background, hopefully you guys like it. We got the Canon AE1 up there. But yeah, so a little change of scenery there. But anyways, that's not what today's video is about. Today's video is about the newest gimbal from ZHIYUN-TECH, which is the ZHIYUN Crane Plus. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions from you guys on some of my other videos, especially the 18-105 video, about which stabilizer I'm using and recommend. So when ZHIYUN-TECH reached out to me and asked me if I'd like to review the new Crane Plus, I was super stoked because I've actually been shooting on the Crane V2 for quite a while now, and I planned on making a video about that gimbal, but since they decided to give me the homie hookup on the newest Crane Plus, I figured we'd make a video about that instead, since the upgrades are pretty nice compared to the V2 that I've been previously shooting on. So real quick before we jump in, I just want to make it completely clear to you guys that I did receive this gimbal for free from ZHIYUN-TECH in exchange for today's video, but they made it clear to me that I'm free to say whatever I want about the product. And you guys, my subscribers, are the homies, so give me some dap. Yeah, so anyways, you guys are the homies, and I would totally never recommend a product to you guys that I don't personally use or believe in or anything like that in exchange for free products or money or whatever. I like having less gear anyways, so more gear, if it's not something I'm actually going to use, it's like I'm not even going to accept it. So not to mention, now I have two gimbals, and really I probably only need one, so hopefully you guys get where I'm going with that one. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some test footage from both the Crane V2 and the Crane Plus, since they're both pretty similar, and then we'll come back and talk about my thoughts on this new beast of a gimbal. As you guys can see, I've been using gimbals on pretty much all of my shoots since the Tahoe 2 video, and it has literally been a total game changer for me. Way back in the day, like before gimbals were even a thing, I was a big time glide cam shooter. I shot almost everything on a glide cam. If you go check out some of my older videos, either glide cam or handheld, but the ZHIYUN gimbals have really been like just a huge leap forward as far as stabilization goes. It's just super easy to use. Even my girlfriend Victoria, even though I'm kind of teaching her some video stuff now, I have been for a little while, we'll get into that in another video, but even she could use one pretty much right off the bat. You just like turn it on, you hold it, and it's almost guaranteed that your footage is gonna be stable. Even if I'm shooting something static and kind of maybe boring, a lot of times for my clients we'll shoot models, like people hanging out at the campfire or at the bar, I'll still use my gimbal because it's a super easy and great way to add some camera movement to my footage. If you guys have been studying some of my other videos, you've probably noticed that almost every single one of my shots has some sort of camera movement. So since this video is about the ZHIYUN Crane Plus, let's go through some of the different specs and details and things that you guys might want to know when you're shopping for a gimbal for your Sony camera. Compared to the ZHIYUN Crane V2, the ZHIYUN Crane Plus is almost exactly the same in terms of weight and build quality and form factor. What's nice about the Crane Plus is that it actually comes with the cable that you need to connect the gimbal to your camera. That's going to allow you to start and stop recording. It's going to allow you to take pictures, and it's also going to allow you to use some of the more advanced modes with the ZHIYUN Play app, like motion tracking or the new motion time-lapse mode, which we'll get into just a little bit later. It also comes with a new tripod attachment that attaches to the bottom. As you guys can see here, it folds down just like that, and the legs fold out like this. Yeah, it's super convenient. It just allows you to set the gimbal down and balance it, different things like that. Makes your life so much easier, whereas the Crane V2 didn't have that, and it was something you had to buy separately. The Crane Plus has a battery life of between 12 and 18 hours, and I have literally never had this thing die on me. Now, I shoot a lot of skiing and snowboarding, as you guys know, and sometimes it's like 10 degrees outside, Fahrenheit, by the way. But sometimes it's like 10 degrees outside and this thing will still go all day long. This was one of the biggest things that I noticed about this gimbal is just how long it lasts. I'm super confident that I can charge my batteries and use the gimbal for an entire day without it dying. It also supports up to 5.5 pounds, which is great for larger cameras and different lens combinations, and it works for pretty much any lens combo that I'm using on my Sony A6300. Now we'll see what happens when I upgrade to a full frame camera, but I can't imagine that that camera is going to be any heavier than 5.5 pounds. In case you guys are wondering, my go-to lens for gimbal filming is the Sony 18-105. If you guys haven't seen my 18-105 video, I'll go ahead and put a link up here for you. But yeah, that's my go-to lens for pretty much all gimbal filming. In fact, like pretty much all filming these days. I'm using the 18-105 more than any lens in my kit just because it's super awesome and convenient. But yeah, it's a great lens. Check out the video. That's what I'm using for pretty much all of my gimbal footage. So if you're wondering what lens works best for the gimbal, I think the 18-105 is the way to go. Now the Crane Plus has a total of 5 different modes that you can use while you're shooting video to get different kinds of shots. It depends on the type of shot that you're getting. Now, I don't actually know the technical names for these modes, so we're just gonna try to explain them as best as I can without me having to pull out the manual or anything like that. So the first mode is the mode that the gimbal actually powers up in, and in this mode, you're able to pan the camera from left to right by turning your hands, but if you wanna adjust the tilt is actually locked and you have to use the joystick to use the tilt up and down. By clicking the button once, you'll enter the second mode, and in this mode, it locks everything. So the camera is gonna stay in one direction, wherever it was pointing when you push the button, and that's where it's gonna stay. And this is perfect for using like when you're following somebody running, or if you have your camera like on a monopod as a jib, this is the mode that I'll use. But yeah, it's a really cool mode. I actually used it in the shot that you guys are seeing now, where my girlfriend is running along in the field. I just locked it to her running position and then I just ran. I didn't really worry about my hands, where the position was, or anything like that. Having the locked mode is super nice if you know that you only want to point in one direction. The third mode is a completely new mode that I've actually never seen on any other gimbals on the market, and that's what ZHIYUN is calling the POV mode. This mode actually lets you roll the camera 45 degrees in either direction, which I think is super cool. I don't know how the technology works, that's like way beyond me, but it's super awesome that you're able to actually roll the camera from left to right with your hands while you're shooting. I think this mode is going to be a super cool mode that I'm really excited to try out a little bit more to kind of get some more creative shots instead of just your standard left, right, up, down, you know. So it's nice to have a little bit something different, and like I said, I think ZHIYUN is the only person that's making gimbals with this capability as of right now. Now the next mode is a mode that I'll just call full control mode. So by double clicking the button on the handle, you're able to control your pan from left to right by turning your wrist, and you're able to tilt up and down by pointing your wrist up and down. So this gives you 100% full control of your camera without having to touch the joystick at all. So personally, I don't really use this mode too often. I prefer to have one of the axes locked, but it's totally up to you. Depending on what type of shot you're trying to get, this mode might come in handy. Now the last mode is what I'm going to call selfie mode. Now this is a mode that I don't really use on my gimbal pretty much ever. Sometimes I'll accidentally go into it and I'm like, why did I do that? And then I'll go back to regular mode. But anyways, by triple clicking the button, the camera will turn around and face you, which could be super convenient for like vlogs if you want super smooth vlog footage. But personally, I use a GorillaPod just like everybody else for my vlogs. So yeah, this isn't a mode that I really use, but if it's something you're interested in and you want super stable vlogs, it's definitely an option for you on the ZHIYUN Crane Plus. Now my go-to mode for the ZHIYUN Crane Plus is the first mode that the gimbal starts up in that allows you to pan from left to right but locks the tilt from up and down. Personally, I just think this is the easiest mode to work with because in most cases I'm gonna want my camera to point in the same direction, and I just want to be able to adjust the pan from left to right. So if I want to adjust the tilt, I'll just adjust it on the joystick, but otherwise I'm using the first mode for pretty much 95% of my shots, except in the rare case to where I want to lock the camera, like for example that running shot, then I'll use the locked mode, but otherwise the first mode is my go-to mode all the time. A couple of new and interesting features that the ZHIYUN Crane Plus has are both the intelligent motion tracking and the motion time-lapse modes. Both of these modes are going to require you to download the ZY Play app and use your phone to control the gimbal, but once you have the app downloaded, it's pretty easy to use. For the motion tracking feature, you actually have to mount your smartphone to the top of your camera with a hot shoe mount because the gimbal is actually going to use the phone's camera to track the object, and then the gimbal will follow so that your camera camera is also tracking that object. Now, it's been snowing pretty much non-stop here for the past couple days, so I haven't really been able to get out and fully test this feature, but from what I have tested, I can tell that it works fairly well, but it's definitely not perfect. Like if a person or a tree or something else gets in the way of your motion tracking, then the gimbal and the camera can kind of get confused and it'll get off track. So yeah, it's not perfect by any means, but I really think it's a great idea, especially if you have a perfect shot. But I can see it being a super useful tool for hyperlapses, so hopefully when the weather clears up, I'll be able to test that out a little bit more. As for the motion time-lapse feature, now this one is a huge game changer for me, and I'm sure I'll be using this feature all of the time. I never used to really shoot time-lapses because I always thought they were kind of boring and they never really had enough motion, unless you spent a ton of money on like an electric slider that's gonna do your time-lapse motion. But now with the gimbal, it's super easy to add a little bit of motion to your time-lapses, and I could really see myself using this feature a lot more in the future. It's pretty simple to use. You just choose the motion time-lapse option in the ZHIYUN app, and then you set your gimbal to the first position that you want it to start, you add a waypoint, and then you move it to the second position where you want it to end, and you add another waypoint. You can add multiple waypoints, but for my needs, I think just A to B works pretty well. And then once you're done, you can go to the next screen and choose how long you want that time lapse to run. And once you push start, it's gonna do everything for you. You can just kick back and relax, let the time lapse go. And what's great is with the included Sony cable, it's gonna start your camera recording as soon as you push start on the app. Overall, I think ZHIYUN-TECH makes an awesome line of products. I've been using them for quite a while now, and I'm super stoked that they asked me to test out and review the new Crane Plus. The Crane Plus is a nice upgrade over the Crane V2 that'll support heavier cameras and has a little bit longer battery life, and that I think will be a little bit more future-proof for when I decide to upgrade to a full-frame camera sometime in the near future. What's nice about shooting footage with a gimbal is that it's super easy to use and you can get super buttery smooth shots without a whole lot of effort. So you can worry more about your composition and your framing and your camera movement and less about whether or not your hands are shaky. So there you go, guys. Now you know which stabilizer I'm using for pretty much all of my footage. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys want to see more tips and tricks or tutorials or behind the scenes of how I'm using my gimbal to get specific shots, and I'll try to make that happen for you guys. Do me a favor and like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more, and check out the links down in the description below if you guys want to learn more about the ZHIYUN Crane Plus. As always, feel free to hit me with any questions that you guys have, and I'll do my best to answer every single one of them. But until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.